Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. Watch my video and subscribe my channel. Thomas is back and danger looms. Thomas Forrester returned last week to B&B. Fans are bracing for stalking, kidnapping, and anarchy throughout Los Angeles. Thomas is back and he means business. Thomas Forrester made a stunning comeback to Bold and the Beautiful last week, and fans are already grabbing popcorn. The prodigal fashion mogul has returned to Los Angeles, and if his previous adventures are any indication, trouble is on the way. From obsessive ideas to dangerously impassioned conspiracies, Thomas's resume screams chaos incarnate. Will he kill on the B&B? Let's be honest. Thomas has toyed with dark area before. While he has not committed murder, he has arranged enough near disasters to make you sleep with one eye open. A stunning twist or a death-related scenario is not out of the question, especially now that he's back and hungry for control. Stalking Hope again? I hope Logan considers triple locking her doors. Thomas's fascination with her is famous and terrifying. Could we expect late-night stakeouts, cryptic communications, or a high-stakes rescue scene? Fans are already speculating and little afraid. Kidnapping Liam? Liam Spencer has weathered heartbreak, treachery, and corporate sabotage, but Thomas's reappearance may test him to his limits. History implies that Thomas liked the high-stakes, emotionally charged pandemonium that makes spectators gasp. A kidnapping plot? Do not rule it out. Teaming up with Luna? Can Thomas create an alliance with Luna? Luna's technological prowess may match Thomas's shrewd mind, resulting in a collaboration that is both dangerous and fascinating. Their combined schemes have the potential to disrupt the entire Logan Forrester dynasty. Thomas Forrester's return to Los Angeles was not just a moment of dramatic fanfare. It was the beginning of a new storm brewing over the sprawling, glittering world of the Forresters, Logans, and Spencers, and as the city's skyline shimmered in the late afternoon sun, one could feel a tense electricity in the air. An invisible vibration that only those who had suffered under Thomas's manipulations before could truly recognize. Ridge, standing in the Forrester Creations office, felt his chest tighten as memories of his son's previous obsessions flashed like phantom daggers. Hope Logan's fearful eyes as Thomas cornered her with obsessive affection. Liam Spencer's exhausted pleas for peace. Brooke Logan's fierce warnings that went unheeded until it was nearly too late. And even the quiet tears of Douglas, torn between loving his father and fearing him. Yet here Thomas was again, dressed impeccably as always, his eyes carrying the dangerous glint of reinvention, that smile that could disarm a boardroom and devastate a heart in equal measure. And as he promised he had changed, as he swore his therapy had fixed him, as he reassured Hope that his intentions were only to co-parent, to design, to be a better man, there was an undercurrent in his tone, a silky, almost serpentine rhythm that spoke not of peace but of possession, of strategy, of a man who had returned not as a beggar for forgiveness, but as a chess master returning to a half-finished game where his pieces, Liam, Hope, Brooke, Ridge, Steffi, even the mysterious Luna Nozawa, were waiting to be moved into place, and the whispers in the Forrester hallways had already begun. Would Thomas stalk Hope again? Would his obsession rekindle with a darker, more covert edge? Would he send cryptic late-night messages, follow her car at dusk, manipulate situations so that he could be her rescuer when a staged danger arose? And what of Liam Spencer, the perennial thorn in his side, the rival who had always stood as Hope's supposed protector, the man whose own marriage to Steffi had been torn apart by jealousy, betrayal, and Thomas's clever hands guiding the dominoes? Would Thomas dare to take him out of the equation once and for all? Not through outright murder, perhaps, but through something far more insidious, a staged disappearance, a kidnapping that would rock the Spencers to their core and leave Bill Spencer snarling, like a lion robbed of his cub, threatening vengeance across Los Angeles while Thomas sat in the shadows pulling the strings. And yet the city was not prepared for the possibility that Thomas, older and more calculating, might not act alone this time. For whispers swirled that Luna Nozawa, tech-savvy mysterious, a woman whose own moral compass had been questioned in recent months, might become his unlikely accomplice, the Een to his dark yang, feeding him access to encrypted files, tracking phones, planting false evidence, weaving a web of digital manipulation that could turn Hope against Liam, Liam against Bill, Brooke against Ridge, and the Forresters against the world. And while Ridge clung to the hope that his son's return meant a healed family, Taylor Hayes, watching from the sidelines with her own fractured heart, warned him that darkness does not dissolve. It evolves, and Thomas's darkness was now refined, patient, and hungry for a legacy of power, love, and control that went far beyond a fashion line or a fleeting romance. It was about dominance, about rewriting the family hierarchy, about becoming the name on everyone's lips, whether through seduction, terror, or both. And as the nights grew longer in Los Angeles, Hope found herself glancing over her shoulder more often. Liam began receiving anonymous texts with veiled threats. Steffi noticed her security detail being mysteriously bypassed. And Bill, ever the hunter, felt a chill that reminded him of past wars he thought were buried, while in a dimly lit apartment somewhere near downtown, Thomas and Luna shared a look over a spread of blueprints and digital schematics. Not of dresses this time, but of lives in Los Angeles. Unaware, held its breath, for the prodigal son had returned, and with him came the promise of stalking that blurred the line between love and obsession, kidnappings that could shatter families, alliances that could rewrite loyalties, and the haunting, unspoken question, would Thomas Forrester finally cross that last line, the line of blood, the line of no return, or would he dance forever on the razor's edge between redemption and ruin, his every move a melody that lured the innocent closer even as the wolves howled in the distance? Under the neon glow of Los Angeles, the tension surrounding Thomas Forrester's return only deepened as the days turned into nights riddled with unanswered questions, shifting alliances, and a gnawing sense that the past was looping back upon itself like a serpent devouring its tail. For every promise of redemption Thomas uttered came laced with the memory of manipulation. Hope Logan's hesitant smiles, hiding the scars of gaslighting and obsession. Liam Spencer's restless pacing betraying the paranoia of a man who had been cornered before. Brooke Logan's razor-sharp intuition whispering that danger often comes dressed in apologies and designer suits, and Ridge Forrester's desperate hope that his son was truly on the path of light, clashing with the reality that Thomas thrived in shadows. And as the Forrester Creations boardrooms buzzed with new designs and whispers of relaunching Thomas's vision, a different kind of blueprint was being drafted in secret. Late-night drives down Mulholland, where headlights followed too closely, encrypted messages slipping into Liam's phone like digital ghosts. A misplaced scarf in Hope's car that carried Thomas's scent, though he swore he hadn't seen her in days. And somewhere in the matrix of deception, Luna Nozawa's fingerprints began to emerge. She who had once been seen as the fresh, tech-savvy breath in the Forrester circle, now found herself lured into Thomas's gravitational pull, whether by choice, coercion, or a cocktail of both. It was a matter of speculation, but the result was the same. A partnership was forming, one that combined Thomas's psychological cunning with Luna's ability to bypass firewalls, reroute GPS signals, and plant digital seeds that could bloom into chaos at the tap of a screen, and soon conversations began to fracture. Hope confided in Brooke that she felt watched again. Steffi snapped at Finn for suggesting extra security at the Cliff House. Bill Spencer had his private investigators double there. Hours after Liam received an unmarked package containing a single sketch of his daughter Beth with the words, "Family needs protection," scribbled beneath it, and Taylor Hayes, though torn by maternal instinct to shield Thomas, started documenting his unexplained absences, the mysterious calls he dismissed as work, the way his eyes lingered, not with love but with calculation, and as the city's heartbeat quickened, the question became less about if Thomas would strike and more about when and how. Because the Thomas Forrester of old had been impulsive, reckless, leaving trails even amateurs could follow. But this Thomas, the one who claimed therapy had cured him, was deliberate, strategic, laying emotional landmines beneath the foundations of the Logan Forrester Spencer triangle. preparing a symphony of controlled explosions, a whispered accusation here, a faked emergency there, a carefully timed heroic intervention to win Hope's gratitude and Liam's downfall, and with Luna at his side. The digital realm became his playground. Emails vanished, camera feeds looped, GPS signals cloned, and the City of Angels became a maze of false truths and invisible threads, each one pulling tighter around its chosen prey. And in the shadows of downtown, where Thomas rented a studio the few knew about, a wall of sketches loomed. Hope in varying states of joy and despair, Liam with a red cross drawn over his face, Ridge torn between pride and panic, Steffi holding Finn's hand but looking over her shoulder, Luna's own portrait marked with a question mark, as if even Thomas himself hadn't decided how deeply she would be woven into this tapestry of control. And still he waited, the way a spider waits for the vibration that signals a trapped fly. And as the Forrester mansion prepared for yet another family dinner meant to showcase unity, the air smelled of uneaten bread and old betrayals, because everyone who had ever danced in Thomas Forrester's web knew one immutable truth. When he returned, danger did not knock. It slipped in through the unlocked back door, sat at your table, and smiled as it sharpened the knife beneath the cloth. And the nights stretched longer, darker, thick with that slow-burning dread that only Thomas Forrester could seed in a city that pretended to sleep, because every corner of Los Angeles where the Forresters, Logans, and Spencers walked began to hum with the vibration of something impending, like a taut string pulled to its breaking point, and the string had a name. Thomas returned not as the wild-eyed schemer of the past, but as a version honed by silence, sharpened by absence, and now dripping with calculated charm that masked an agenda no one could quite decode for a while. He smiled at board meetings and spoke of new beginnings and respecting boundaries. His eyes betrayed him when they lingered on Hope Logan, eyes that once burned with obsession now glinted with the quiet thrill of a hunter who had learned patience. And Hope, though she swore to herself she would not be drawn in, found her days peppered with signs that history was repeating in subtler, more sinister ways. Flowers arriving with no sender, a melody she had once shared with Thomas playing faintly. When she passed Forrester's empty design office late at night, Douglas asking why his dad was around more but not sleeping much, and Liam Spencer, ever the weary sentinel, felt the old familiar storm crawling up his spine, the one that had preceded every betrayal, every breakdown, every fracture between him and Hope. And this time he feared it would not be just their marriage at stake, but their very safety, because Thomas had been quiet for too long, and silence in the world of Thomas. Forrester was never a retreat, but a rehearsal, and as Bill Spencer tightened his grip over his son's movements, hiring extra security, planting trackers, threatening Thomas in hushed tones behind the walls of Spencer Publications, the designer only smiled, a smile that said, "You think you're the hunter, but you're already in the snare." For Thomas had been building more than designs. He had been building networks, alliances, whispers with Luna Nozawa, who, drawn by both fascination and fear, slipped deeper into his orbit with every text she encrypted, every security feed she altered, every innocent conversation she recorded under the guise of helping Hope see the truth, and soon the city was a stage. Steffi Forrester noticed strangers loitering near the Cliff House. Finn received a call from a blocked number warning him to stay out of it. Taylor Hayes wrestled with the growing suspicion that her son's therapy had not healed him, but refined his mask. Brooke Logan fought the creeping thought that Ridge was willfully blind because he could not bear to lose his son again. And Ridge himself vacillated between the pride of a father who saw brilliance returning to the family business and the gnawing dread of a man who had seen that brilliance burn down lives before. And as days folded into weeks, the incidents began to pile. Liam's car brake lines found tampered, but uncut. Hope's phone hacked to display false texts that made her doubt her own memory. A chilling sketch of Beth and Douglas left in a package with no fingerprints. And through it all Thomas moved like smoke, visible when he chose to be, gone when the alarm sounded, leaving behind nothing but questions and a trail of dread, and in a rented loft downtown, Walls plastered with designs both couture and conspiratorial, Luna stood over a digital map of Los Angeles lit with tiny red dots. Liam's routes, Hope's schedule, Ridge's meetings, Steffi's Pilates classes, each one connected by a web of thin lines that only she and Thomas could read. And he, standing behind her with that unshakable calm, whispered promises of a future where control meant safety, where removing obstacles meant freeing love, where Liam would no longer be a problem, where Hope would finally see him for what he truly was, and the city, sprawling and glittering and oblivious, carried on its dinners and galas and boardroom intrigues, unaware that one man's obsession, upgraded by time, technology, and a willing accomplice, had already begun to warp its orbit. Because Thomas Forrester was back, and danger in Los Angeles does not announce itself with thunder. It seeps in, pulse by pulse, until the whole city beats to its rhythm. And the city began to tremble beneath the weight of what no one could yet name. Because Thomas Forrester's return was no mere homecoming. It was a carefully timed re-entry into a landscape already fractured by years of betrayal, grudges, and unhealed wounds, and like a fault line that had gone unmonitored, it started small. A glance too long at Hope Logan during a design fitting, a casual remark to Liam Spencer that sounded harmless but burrowed deep into his insecurities, a late-night text to Douglas about surprises coming soon, and each tiny tremor rippled outward, unnoticed by those who wanted to believe in his reform, and Ridge Forrester, always teetering between fatherly loyalty and hard-earned wisdom, chose loyalty once again, telling Brooke Logan that Thomas was different now, telling Taylor Hayes that their son deserved the benefit of the doubt, telling himself that the past was a closed chapter even as the evidence of its reawakening flickered all around him. Security cameras at Forrester Creations showing unexplained access after midnight, shipments arriving at the loading docks under aliases, design drafts erased and replaced with messages only Hope would understand. Messages that made her question her own grip on reality because it started so gently, reminders of moments she had tried to forget, notes in her handwriting that she did not write, photographs of her at places she had not been, and while she turned to Liam for comfort, Liam was already unraveling under a different pressure. Anonymous emails with threats about Beth, veiled accusations about his own past mistakes, whispers planted to make him look unstable in the eyes of the very woman he wanted to protect, and Bill Spencer, sensing the encroaching chaos, doubled his private security, but found himself 2 steps behind at every turn. For this was not the brash, impulsive Thomas of old. This was a Thomas who had learned the art of the long game, and at his side, increasingly entangled in his plans, whether through fascination, coercion, or her own thirst for power, stood Luna Nozoa, the enigmatic wild card whose technical brilliance became the silent weapon behind the curtain. She rerouted Liam's GPS so his alibis would collapse. She altered Hope's calendar to create chance encounters. She planted fake correspondences that turned allies against each other. Thomas Forrester had not come back to merely reclaim a place at the Forrester Creations table. He had returned to rewrite the very script of their lives, a script where his past mistakes would no longer define him, but rather serve as the prologue to a far more intricate act. One written with stealth instead of recklessness, subtlety instead of spectacle, and an unnerving patience that made his previous obsessions seem like childish tantrums in comparison. For he understood, now, that to control Hope Logan, he did not need to chase her. He needed to shape the world around her until he was the only stable point left in her chaos. And that meant isolating Liam Spencer, slowly, surgically, without a trace of brute force, using suggestion, fabrication, and well-placed fear. An anonymous call about Beth wandering too close to the street. An email showing Liam's name attached to a non-existent affair. Security footage doctored to place him near a suspicious scene. And each seed planted by Thomas's hand and watered by Luna Nozoa's technical brilliance, grew roots before anyone realized the soil had been tampered with. And Luna, once the golden girl with a mysterious past, now found herself watching lines blur between assistance and allegiance. For the more she tried to tell herself, she was only helping Thomas stay on track. the deeper she found herself coding late-night scripts to intercept Liam's messages, erasing digital footprints, crafting phantom alerts that would send Bill Spencer storming in the wrong direction, leaving the real play hidden in plain sight. And as days stretched into weeks, a subtle paranoia settled into Hope's eyes. She began checking her locks twice, keeping Beth home more often, declining evening events, and yet somehow Thomas always seemed to appear in moments of tension, calm, helpful, understanding, the perfect antidote to the very poison he had released. And Liam, desperate, grew erratic, his words sounding less like warnings and more like the rantings of a jealous man on the edge. And Ridge, blinded by both fatherhood and fatigue, told him to back off, told him Thomas was making progress, told him to stop reigniting old fires, while Brooke whispered in private that the same smoke was starting to rise again, that the same patterns were forming, and Taylor Hayes, clutching her phone as she read an unsent draft Thomas had left open, a blueprint of Hope's schedule cross-referenced with Liam's recent whereabouts, felt the chill of déjà vu crawl up her spine, but it was already too late because Thomas's plan had entered its second act. The night Liam disappeared was not dramatic, no masked men, no screeching tires, just a carefully engineered breakdown on a quiet road near Topanga Canyon. A flat tire he never saw coming, a black van that appeared without headlights, a whispered apology before the world went dark. And when he awoke, bound in a dimly lit room with the faint smell of fabric, glue and pencil shavings, his phone gone, his watch still ticking, and a single sketch of Hope taped to the wall in front of him. The message beneath it read, "She will thank me for this." And somewhere across the city, Thomas poured himself a glass of wine. Luna stared at the glow of her laptop with trembling fingers, and Los Angeles continued its glamorous charade, unaware that its heart was being hollowed out from the inside, one calculated beat at a time.